Hello, 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 everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, morning, good night, wherever you are in the world, giving me your attention. My name is Reverend Phoenix Coffin Williams, and I'm the first priest of the Corellian tradition. And this is my latest update to Fridays with Phoenix. If y'all been chilling out with me for a while, you know what kind of stuff I talk about. Um, and you know that there's a particular topic that the past several months of this Friday segment has been about. And I'm going to continue that today. Um, just so y'all are aware, as always, you can interact with me by using the chat function wherever you happen to be observing from. And I will monitor that and do my best to keep up with y'all. Last time I broadcast, last Friday, I spent some time talking about two particular divinities from the Egyptian pantheon. I talked about Khonsu and Tehuti, who were both moon divinities, and they were both revered as gods in Egypt, in Kemet. And I talked about a creation story. I called it a creation story that involved both of them. It was the story of how we got a 365-day calendar, and it talked about the cleverness of Tahuti, and it talked about Konsu always be willing to, place a bet and engage in a game or what have you. I talked about the things that fell into the domain of Tahuti. And then I talked about a mythological history related to Khonsu that very many people don't know about. And left off with the question, what exactly makes a god versus a demon when gods participate in life in a certain behaviors that, under some circumstances, we would consider them demonic. I want to read you the myth of a storm god from Mesopotamia whose name is. And so I want you to listen to this myth and keep in mind the question that's on the table right now. What is the distinguishing feature between a god and a demon, or an angel and a demon? Zu, or Anzu, was a storm god, symbolized in the form of a bird, or sometimes half man and half bird. He may typify the advancing storm cloud, which would have seemed to those of old as if hovering like a great bird above the land which it was about to strike. The North American Indians possess such a mythological conception in the thunderbird, and it is probable that the great bird called Rock, so well known to the readers of the Arabian Nights, was a similar monster, perhaps a descendant of the Zu bird. We remember how this enormous creature descended upon the ship in which Sinbad sailed and carried him off. Certain it is that we can trace the Rock or Rook to the Persian Simurg, which is again referable to a more ancient Persian form, the Amru or Sinamru, the bird of immortality. And we may feel sure that what is found in ancient Persian lore has some foundation in Babylonian belief. So that's like lineage and descendancy of this concept. The Zu bird was evidently under the control of the sun, and his attempt to break away from the solar authority is related in the following legend. It is told of the god Zu that on one occasion, ambition awakening in his breast caused him to cast envious eyes on the power and sovereignty of Bel. so that he determined to purloin the tablets of destiny, which were the tangible symbols of Bel's greatness. At this time, it may be recalled, the tablets of destiny had already an interesting history behind them. We are told in the creation legend how Apsu, the primeval, and Tiawath Chaos, the first parents of the gods, afterward conceived a hatred for their offspring, and how Tiawath, with her monstrous brood of snakes and vipers, dragons and scorpion men, and raging hounds, made war on the hosts of heaven. Her son Kingu she made captain of her hideous army. To march before the forces, to lead the host, to give the battle signal, to advance to the attack, to direct the battle, to control the fight. To him she gave the tablets of destiny, laying them on his breast with the words, "Thy command shall not be without avail, and the word of thy mouth shall be established." Through his possession of the divine tablets, Kingu received the power of Anu and was able to decree the fate of the gods. After several deities had refused the honor of becoming champion of heaven, Merodach was chosen. He succeeded at length in slaying Tiawath and destroying her evil host, and having vanquished Kingu, her captain, he took from him the tablets of destiny, which he sealed and laid on his own breast. It was this Merodach, or Marduk, who afterward became identified with Bel. Now Zu, in his greed for power and dominion, was eager to obtain the potent symbols. He beheld the honor and majesty of Bel, and from contemplation of these, he turned to look upon the tablets of destiny, saying within himself, "Lo, I will possess the tablets of the gods, and all things shall be subject unto me. The spirits of heaven shall bow before me. The oracles of the gods shall be in my hands. I shall wear the crown, symbol of sovereignty, and the robe, symbol of Godhead, and then shall I rule over all the hosts of heaven." Thus inflamed, he sought the entrance to Bel's hall, where he awaited the dawn of the day. And the text goes on. Now, when Bel was pouring out the clear water, as in the light of day, and his diadem was taken off and lay upon the throne, Zeus seized the tablets of destiny, giving commands. Then Zeus fled away and hid himself. Bel was greatly enraged at the theft, and all the gods with him. Anu, Lord of Heaven, summoned about him his divine sons and asked for a champion to recover the tablets. But though the god Raman was chosen, and after him several other deities, they all refused to advance against Zu. The end of the legend is unfortunately missing, but from a passage in another tale, the legend of Atana, we gather that it was the sun god Shamash who eventually stormed the mountain stronghold of Zu, and with his net succeeded in capturing the presumptuous deity. The legend is of the Prometheus type. But whereas Prometheus, once a bird god, steals fire from heaven for the behoof of mankind, Zeus steals the tablets of destiny for his own. These must, of course, be regained if the sovereignty of heaven is duly to continue, and to make the tale circumstantial, the sun god is provided with a fowler's net with which to capture the recalcitrant Zu bird. Jastrow believes the myth to have been manufactured for the purpose of showing how the tablets of power were originally lost by the older Bel and gained by Marduk. But he was discounted the reference in the Ithana legend relating to their recovery. This is from the epic tales, Gods and Monsters, Myths and Tales. I got this from a Barnes & Noble. It is from Flame Tree Publishing, what the side looks like. And it has bunches of mythologies in here from various cultures. The one that I just read is Mesopotamian, Babylonian, like that area. And the reason why I like looking at myths and the behaviors of gods and divinities and heroes and monsters is because there really does seem to be a golden thread that helps us understand humanity encoded in all of these world's myths. One of the things that I noticed about this myth in particular is that it on purpose seems to highlight the zoomorphic symbolism in these stories. And when I say zoomorphic, I mean that it highlights the animal kind of bodies. It highlights the primitive kind of component of these divinities. Because as we come to understand, when divinities are discussed or depicted or described as being part human, part animal, it does kind of give us permission to understand and look into and to understand the, I don't want to call it primitive, but maybe like the pre-civilized aspects of all of our personalities, or the parts of humanity that lived before the first cities, or the parts of humanities that lived before and during the first villages, and the things that the first people ever did to organize themselves. And it, to me, talks about the way that they were very, very close to the earth and the creatures on it. And it's almost, for me, kind of like acknowledging like that totem energy, like totem being a word that like helps us understand like what I'm coming for here. So like the bird god zoo, like totemic kind of energy, represents primitive aspects of humanity and to a degree the more primitive aspects of our own personalities. In the story that we just learned about, one of the divinities had what we would consider a very human experience. There was some envy, um, entitlement, which led to the committing of a crime against heaven. Is that what makes a divinity a demon or crime against order? It doesn't seem like that consistently, because as a lot of myth shows, there are certain crimes against divinities or against heaven that are ordained by the cosmic law. Maybe think about that moving forward as you continue to do your own research into what makes a demon, what makes a god, what is it mean to be possessed by a god versus possessed by a demon. Because as magic users, as witches, we do absolutely celebrate transpossession as a spiritual component. We absolutely celebrate the ability to allow God to enter our body and heal ourselves and our communities. And I want to encourage everyone to not allow media and sensationalism and hypocrisy and fear mongering trick you into bastardizing such a holy and sacred practice. One of the things that I said very early on, and I do want to repeat that now, the idea of demonic possession as it is presented to us in popular media is 100% a fear projection from people who are problems. And that projection of demonic possession and that projection of an ongoing war between heaven and hell in which God needs every single person or every single spirit on their team in order to be successful, or in a worldview where some demonic entity is trying to trick souls so that they have enough spiritual energy to overthrow heaven. That's not a thing. That is a projection from people with very profound mental illness. So let that sink in. Contend with it however you see fit, but understand that when you pray, you align yourself with your higher self, you align yourself with the divinities. The stories that you align yourself with will play out in your life. The battles that the gods have gone through, or the battles that the heroes have gone through. You know, if you brand yourself being reincarnated as some kind of spirit that lived before, if you are moving in the circle where you are surrounded by and indeed identify yourself as an old soul, just consider that some of the stuff that you are going through are patterns that maybe didn't resolve in a previous life, or multiple previous lives. If you are someone who believes in karma, then you maybe understand that some of the choices that you made in a previous life impact your experience in this life. And that might have a lot to do with what's going on in your experience. And the attempts at blaming it on a demon or a devil or a possession or something like that really does not help you free yourself from the moment that you are in. And it doesn't help you regain any of the power that is being presented to you in these moments of adversity. For those of you who are Corellian and studying in a Corellian path, we do have a very interesting and an ongoing method of purifying, rebalancing, and even exercising. I challenge some of y'all to go into some of our groups, some of the chats and the community spaces, and see if some of the higher ranking clergy will tell you, yes, this is what Phoenix was talking about when he said we have a consistent way of practicing exorcism. See if you cannot recognize it for yourself, see if one of the third degrees or one of the they engage with this conversation and start to see what some of the other folks in the community think about this and what they believe about this. Thank you for spending your time and energy with me. I'll be back next Friday with another way of looking at this issue. And of course, until next time, may you blessed be.